World must rewild on massive scale to heal nature and climate, says UN. The world must rewild and restore an area the size of China to meet commitments on nature and the climate, says the UN, and the revival of ecosystems must be met with all the ambition of the space race.
Here's a summary of the article.
The world must rewild and restore an area the size of China to meet commitments on nature and the climate, says the UN, and the revival of ecosystems must be met with all the ambition of the space race. Existing conservation efforts are insufficient to prevent widespread biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse, the global body has warned at the launch of the Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, an urgent call for the large-scale revival of nature in farmlands, forests and other ecosystems. Humans are using about 1.6 times the resources that nature can sustainably renew every year, and the UN said short-term economic gains are being prioritized over the health of the planet. Half the world's GDP is dependent on nature, and the degradation of ecosystems is affecting about 40% of the world's population already, threatening human health, livelihoods and food security, according to the foreword written by the UNEP Executive Director, Inger Anderson, and the FAO Director General, Ku Dongyu. Even if we feel the science is not mature enough, it should not really stop us from taking action. What you have as a model approach in one ecosystem might not apply in others. So there are many different sorts of ways about it, said Corley Pretorius, Deputy Director of the UNEP World Conservation Monitoring Center. In February, a review commissioned by the British government on the effect of human economic activity on life-sustaining ecosystems found development had come at a devastating cost to the natural world. Last week, the UN State of Finance for Nature report found the world needs to quadruple its annual investment in nature if the climate, biodiversity and land degradation crises are to be tackled by the middle of the century.
This post received a score of 6,700, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
So they say we absolutely have to rewild 2.47 billion acres of land. There are 15.77 billion acres of habitable land on the Earth. How many acres would each country on the planet have to commit to rewilding?
I assume it's much better to have fewer but larger wild areas.
It is, because each isolated wild area functions much as an island. Smaller islands cannot support as large or complex ecosystems as larger ones. Some animals such as large predators require hundreds of square acres of wild land per individual. This is why tigers are in trouble. It is also why species continue to decline in many isolated wildlife preserves in spite of those preserves being kept wild and poaching being prevented. They simply aren't large enough to support the species originally in them, and their populations are dwindling. They are the walking extinct.
It's also very important to get corridors in place so populations from islands can meet. It doesn't have to be just one big plot of land if there is somewhat safe passage between them.
Yup. Fortunately, the need for these is slowly filtering into wildlife management's awareness. It is not as good as unbroken wilderness and will not completely prevent all the issues of fragmentation, but it is a huge jump better than not having corridors.
What we must do. The world must rewild and restore an area the size of China to meet commitments on nature and the climate. What we'll do instead? More deforestation, more overfishing and more dumping of waste into nature.
It doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to accept our future and willingly march towards our death.
Are you willing to destroy the plutocratic system we have in place that's laying waste to the world? You are? Good. Are you able to? Me neither.
I'll stop eating meat and slack off at work and call it a day after that. That's all I got in me.
In other words, shitloads of people around the world are going to die when our ecosystems collapse.
Yes, not to mention the wars.
We are way too short-sighted and stupid to do that.
We're gonna Darwin Award our species, aren't we?
We have plastics in our body. We have already Darwined our species before we were even born.
We can always tell when someone else listens to NPR. Their last news story covering it this past week said a credit card a week of plastics.
There were also articles on Reddit. I had also heard about credit card a week of plastics, and I don't listen to NPR.
I like how we still talk about the space race as if it were merely the nobility of human endeavor that motivated us and not international competition in technology that could be leveraged to nuke each other.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.